They knew it was going to be their last season, but the writers and the showrunner went into it assuming it was going to be 10 episodes. And then Netflix pulled the rug out from under them and they were like, can you do it in 6? And that was because Netflix was just like, we don't want to really spend the money.
Back to the Breakroom, you guys. Netflix released the final season of Umbrella Academy last Friday, and let me tell you, people aren't happy. People are pissed, and rightfully so. Gina and I co-wrote the breakdown for the first 2 episodes on the new Rockstars channel, and I will not, for right now, probably for a long time, will not be breaking down the remaining episodes for the season. That is why we are doing this today, because there's more questions than there is Easter eggs.
Yeah. The Easter eggs are the questions.
Yeah. Oh my. Sometimes some would say that the Easter eggs just made it harder for us to understand what's going on. But all in all, Gina has recently read some of the comics and both rewatched the first, second, and third season recently.
They're great.
We got the screeners a little bit earlier. I'm going off the knowledge of when they dropped and I'd watch them at midnight. But we do love this show. We were able to do a lot of research and stuff, so we're the most capable people to talk about it. Hands down, 100%. I think we know more than Steve Blackman.
He's forgotten everything from season 1.
I'll tell you right now, that man forgot the entire show. He did not know what was going on.
He was like, did we have a digital monkey at some point?
Who said that there was a monkey in the show? And why would we want to bring it back? That costs a lot of money.
That sounds expensive.
I'm Jessica Clemons, and here with me today is Gina Ippolito.
You guys, I found an umbrella shirt just for this.
It was
in my closet.
I like how you just have an umbrella shirt just hanging around.
I like to dress on theme.
I love it too. Like Evan said earlier, make sure to add us in the chat if you guys have specific questions. Again, we were prepared to break down the entire show, so we know a lot of things. We did a lot of talking about it. What were your first thoughts? What are your general opinions?
Listen, I think I liked it more than most people did. I think watching the screeners early and not being not having the internet mob be like, well, let's firebomb Rotten Tomatoes and bring it down to a 15%. I think just watching it on my own, there were definitely some glaring plot points and things that we'll get into why we think it was the way it was.
Yeah.
But all in all, I was like, okay, that's I definitely that last scene I got a little choked up. I liked seeing everyone back in the very end. The little flowers growing made me feel good. So
the flower scene, I was like, oh great, people to stomp on it in the ground.
A dog comes over and just on it.
Kicks up the marigold flowers immediately. Because we got the screeners early. I watched them in one day. 6 episodes isn't a lot of hours, so I was able to watch it all in one day, and I thought it was really funny. And I did notice every time I was watching it, I kept being like, oh, they'll answer it next episode. They answer it next episode. And then on the finale, I went, oh, they just didn't answer it. And I was like, well, I'm excited for me and Gina to write what we think, theorize it. And then
we're gonna answer it.
And then I got to stew in it, and I do think the internet did sway me a little bit more. Internet. It was I'm not. To be fair, I will say right now, I'm not angry. I'm not ooh, let me go kill.
You actually said you thought you liked this better than season 3, right?
Season 2, I think. And when I say this, I'm not saying it as a critic, I'm saying it for my enjoyment. I think this was more fun than season 2 was.
Season 2 when they were stuck in the past.
Yeah, when they were stuck in the past.
Okay, I thought it was season 3 that you didn't like.
I like season. I love the Sparrow Academy timeline.
Okay.
The second season I love the second season. It was just more so that I was like, oh, there's a lot of real shit happening, and I'm not laughing.
Yeah. And also having them all be separated.
Yeah.
It's always the show is always the most fun to me when they're together. Which was why this season when they sort of go off on their own, I was like, what are you doing? We only have 4 episodes left. Why are they all over the place? We want to see them as a weird family unit.
100%. I think that is what a lot of the staple of the arguments are. It's we love them more when they're together. We hate when they're separated.
Yeah. And I think if it was 10 episodes, I think having them go their separate ways, it would have been much more satisfying seeing them come back together. If you separate them for 2 episodes out of 10, and then those last 4 episodes they come back together only to then sacrifice themselves, that sounds satisfying. But if you 2 episodes in are now they're going their separate ways, and then we'll bring them back together on for 5 minutes at the end.
I go, what the hell are you talking about? And also, realistically, how are you going to talk me into sacrificing myself when we haven't seen each other in like a full day?
Yeah.
But this all goes along with probably the answers to a lot of questions you guys have.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of these questions. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Do you want to answer this one?
Yeah. So the main question I feel like is what happened with this season. Fans are super confused about why it was only 6 episodes. And there's like, I've seen some theories of people being like, was it because of the strike? But no, this was already shot and written and stuff like that. So basically, if you know how Netflix works, like Netflix usually gives shows 3 seasons. And that's because like after season 3, you have to re-up a bunch of contracts. It gets much more expensive. So except for shows like Stranger Things, like huge money makers for them, they'll usually give things 3 seasons and then cancel them, which is one of the reasons people get frustrated with Netflix because they get invested. So Umbrella Academy was super expensive. It's a big cast, high-level writers' room, you know, like a lot of CGI. Like every time Pogo was on screen, that was super expensive. The sets were really elaborate. So it was just like an expensive show, but it did do well for them. So they got a season 4. They knew it was going to be their last season, but the writers and the showrunner went into it assuming it was going to be 10 episodes. And then Netflix pulled the rug out from under them and they were like, can you do it in 6? And that was because Netflix was just like, we don't want to really spend the money.
And you can tell they haven't really spent a lot of money on the show because the locations versus the old locations.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, these are a lot of practicals. I even talked about in the first breakdown, I'm like, this is a specific, they shot this entire episode on one specific street in Toronto. And I was like, damn. I was like,
and again, I think this is why we don't see Pogo as much because in this timeline, Pogo would be back to life. Like he would probably still be Hargreaves' butler at this point. Like, but we see him in like one scene. It's really unsatisfying. So I think that Netflix wanted a 4th season. They wanted it wrapped up, but they didn't want to pay for it. And instead of maybe doing a 2-hour movie or something like that, they basically just said, hey, make this 6 episodes. The writers had to scrap a lot of storylines because they thought they were going to get 10 episodes. And that's why some things feel like weirdly paced and weirdly truncated because they had planned it out that it would be 10 episodes. And, you know, Steve Blackman, the writer, like he even said at one point, like, yeah, like obviously we would have loved more episodes and like even 8 would have been good, but we had to sort of like take what we could get. You know, I think Netflix basically was like, hey, like it's this or nothing. So there's a quote from Steve Blackman, the showrunner. He said, some of the things we wanted to do, I think got jettisoned along the way. I wanted to tell a little bit more story with Viktor and Hargreaves, which weirdly, I thought that was one of the more satisfying ones.
I think that was fine.
He said, I wanted to do a little bit more with Luther and what happened to Sloane, which we don't get any of. But at the end of the day, when you're forced to do a certain amount, it forces you to say what's the most important, what are the things that really matter in the storytelling. So sometimes when you don't get the luxury of 10, you really get to cut it down to the things that are really important, not just to us as writers, producers, but to the fans. I hope we did justice to that for the fans. I think the fans have spoken and said, no, you didn't.
There's injustice. That's also an interesting point that he was like, I wanted to spend time with Luther and Sloane. And I was like, I need you guys to pick it up on all of them.
Yeah.
No offense, but like Klaus really hit their peak in season, I would say season 2. Season 2 and 3 a little bit, because season 3 is when they got to see their mom.
Yeah, right? But also season 3 is when Klaus was like, aware that every time they died, like they were coming back to life.
It felt like they weren't really set up for a really good second. Like a 4th season. It's like, what are we gonna do with Klaus?
Yeah, I think some of the concern online was like, hey, we get that your episode orders were cut, but why did you leave in what you left?
Yeah, why'd you choose this?
And I think people are underestimating how hard it is to assume you have 10 episodes and then cut it down. So maybe I'm more forgiving than most. Because like
you come from a writer background.
Yeah, like I've written on shows where we're like, how many episodes do we have this season? 18, 15, 13? Okay, thanks, stop cutting our episodes.
My anger is pointed solely at Netflix and a little bit of Steve Blackman. Because I'm like, I feel like if we did cut, and this is just me, I don't know what point, they do say that they were finished shooting, they were in shooting during the strike, correct?
Yeah, I think that they were still maybe shoot, because like that show probably takes a long time to edit. Yes. So I do think that they probably had to like wrap it up before the strike, but the decision to cut it down to 10 was made from 10 to 6 was made way before the strike.
I think it would have been fine. I also know that there is still that article from the Rolling Stones where they're like, Steve Blackman is really hard to work with. That the writers came out with, so there could be some stuff behind the scenes, but I do believe that if they were given the remaining episodes, we would have got much more better execution.
Yeah, I think maybe the strike is to blame for why we get cameras left in the backs of cars.
The freaking camera rig. Someone on the internet found a camera rig, and I was like, I said it today. I was like, if you're the DP, you saw that. You were just rushed. Like, I'm sure they did 2 takes, one without it, and they for some reason still chose the one with it.
Yeah. That DP was like, maybe no one will notice.
Someone immediately they said, you guys see this camera rig in slow motion? Regardless. So a second question before we go to your guys' question, because I think Gina's first question does summarize a lot of what people are asking.
Yeah, we're going to be going back to that explanation for a lot of these answers.
Yes. And the second one, that is just kind of a blanket one, is between the Marigolds versus the Cleanse versus the Apocalypse. Like, people are just kind of confusing them. There's been a lot of questions about whether or not Abigail kind of started all of the apocalypses, and she didn't. So the Cleanse is like is the apocalypse, but a different version of the apocalypse. The Cleanse was literally only created to get rid of everything that was happening in the past, to retcon it. And the apocalypses were done by Hargraves because they started a new timeline as soon as he released those Marigolds. And she was dead up until literally the finale of the last season.
Dead, but on the moon.
Dead on the moon. Dead on the moon. So Reggie messed up the timelines, releasing all these people, all the Marigolds. And she created the Durango and the Marigold strain.
Oh, I thought someone else.
I thought she created him incidentally.
No, because I think she was saying like at the exact same time, like they were. Oh, she did say they were created.
They were created.
So maybe
I think she didn't want to make
effect.
it was just like a side effect that made it.
Yeah.
But the biggest question is also like, why did the Durango choose Jennifer? Regardless, she made those, and that's what ate the world up. So it wasn't really Abigail's fault for any of the apocalypses. That was still all Reginald's doing, but it's the Cleanse and the Apocalypse aren't the same thing. The apocalypses were always made by the gifted children.
Yeah.
The Cleanse was made to retcon everything.
Yeah, you can look at the Cleanse like the pruning of all the other timelines from Loki. Like that's the machine that's gonna grind up all the other timelines and get like one main timeline back.
Those were just like the 2 questions that I think. Which the second one isn't that bad, but I noticed a lot of people online were just asking like, oh, so she started the apocalypse. Yeah. I was like, no, she didn't. She was dead the entire time.
I mean, I guess like if you're gonna say like her creating the Marigold, which also created the Durango, you know, like and then she died, and then Reggie, like I guess she sort of,
but it was still Reggie's doing.
It is still
no
Reggie's
one asked you to release those damn Marigolds, Reggie. And then that was my irritation was like, so we kind of don't really answer why he still did the Marigolds. He did it to like revive his wife.
Yeah, because he knew that in one of those timelines he would be able to revive her.
And I was like, you as the smartest man, that was the dumbest thing you could have ever done.
He got 9 years with her, I guess you could say. He got 9 years where he was the richest man on earth and got to like see his love again.
But all that for 9 years, I guess. It depends on the person. It depends on the person. It wouldn't be me. Evan, do we have any questions from the chat?
Yeah, some questions I think related to the squid and Jennifer. Joyce Lad asking, why did Jennifer come from the squid? Was it seriously just because her parents threw her in the sea and the squid just ate her?
That is a great question. I think the answer is yes. Yeah, also I've seen online a lot of people were confused because they thought that Jennifer was one of the kids, like one of the 43 that got impregnated, but she's totally separate. No, she had parents who were pregnant. She just had the Durango inside her, but she's not one of those original kids. But yeah, don't you think that like the squid was just a very weird coincidence?
Yeah, I think it was just I think we keep forgetting that how whimsy this show is.
Yeah, and so the comics even like more so. There's like a killer Eiffel Tower flying around the city at some point. So really, this show gets crazy, but not as crazy as the comics. I think that's literally just like the show being like, wouldn't it be fun if she's in a squid?
If we just threw her in the ocean? Oh, who could eat her? A shark? No, a giant squid. And she survives. Some people did say, like, online, they were like, oh, was she born in the squid? And I think they mentioned that line in the show of, like, she was thrown over, like, as that's what happened.
Yeah, I will say the explanation for why she says the cleanse and then has no memory of it later, I have no idea. I'm gonna chalk that up to like that was probably in an episode that got cut where they were like, yeah, we'll see her get thrown into the ocean and
100%.
Blake Fleeting on YouTube asking or saying, I thought the giant squid could be Ben and Jennifer from the OG reincarnated.
That'd be gross as hell.
That's a great question, but I think that so like in the comics, Ben doesn't just have tentacles. He basically has a portal to another dimension that has monsters in it on his stomach. So every time he's fighting, he's like summoning those Cthulhu-like monsters. So he's not actually a squid. Yeah. He has monster tentacles. So, but I have seen that like some people are like, oh, is it supposed to be sort of like a cute little thing? Like she's eaten by a squid, he's sort of a squid, but he's not a squid. Those aren't squid tentacles. Those are Cthulhu monster tentacles.
Also, I think they just didn't do a good explanation. And they don't really need an explanation. They could have just said in like an off thing that like Ben and Jen were always meant to be together.
Yeah.
They never say it, and that would honestly get rid of a lot of questions we have. Because it's like they will always be, it looks like they're always going to come together no matter what happens.
They're the real life Bennifer.
The Bennifer.
Getting back together no matter what Jennifer Garner has to say about it.
One might say with Ben opening the portal to Cthulhu monsters all the time, he's answering the call of Cthulhu.
Oh my God, you're fired.
Gina said it, and I second it.
Okay, another question, just on the topic of the comics, HBassel13, regular chatter, asking, since Gina read the comics, how did you feel about it? Like the kind of relation, and we talked a little bit about this off screen as well.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the comics are bonkers. It's sort of like, you know, it's sort of how I feel about like the Boys comics versus the Boys TV show. In that instance, the Boys TV show is miles better, and the Boys comics like go so hard that you're like just uncomfortable all the time.
Yeah.
I think the Umbrella Academy comics are so hard to adapt faithfully because it would just be insane. The budget would be $1 bajillion. But there's a lot more like, and now, like, look, now there's a severed head like flying around, and oops, it's this person now. There's a lot more magic and weird stuff, and I think the show did a great job of taking something that is totally insane, and making it for TV. They put just enough weird in it that the audience didn't immediately tune it out.
That's true, and that's because the plot lines in the comics are truly insane. And they do like to try to give those homages to the comics. I know this time it was like, here's the Eiffel Tower, but also Klaus being like I don't know what you would want to call someone that can poltergeist sex. What is it? What is his? Oh, you didn't watch it, but
yeah. The Ghostbusters
whatever
ghost that has sex with Dan Aykroyd.
My mom just got to that episode and she was like, oh my God. She was like, why is he letting them do this? And I was like, Mom, he's not letting them do this. He's forced into this. That's the whole point.
Yeah. I will also say, like, I do think that the show did a really good job of like humanizing some of the characters. Like in the comics, the white violin is much more of like a straight up villain. And in this, you're like, damn, that poor kid.
Yeah.
I get why he's doing all this stuff. In the comics, it's like, he's evil.
Bad.
Some things from the Twitch chat. Jay Santella saying, worked on this show all the seasons as production support for NBC. One of my favorite things they put out, but not the best season. I thought it was a great ending.
Wait, that's all he said?
Heck yeah.
Keep saying things. What else?
Congrats. Also, what a cool job.
I need to know what else he saw.
All right. Hey, Jay Santella, drop any more things in the chat.
You're going to get him blacklisted.
Oh, that's true. Never mind. DM me.
Obi-Wan Kenobi and Joycey Ladd both asking, how did Luther get his ape body back? Why did he get the monkey body again when he got his powers back? I thought he was only like that because of a serum used to revive him. Shouldn't he have gotten like normal super strength?
This is a great question. Why didn't he reset to his like body before he got horribly injured? I think that's one we don't have a great answer for. I will say that like the Marigold did something different to each person than just reset them to their original powers. So clearly things are going wrong. And this is my theory. I think that the Marigold in this timeline is pulling things from each of them from every timeline. So it's not just saying like, hey, we're gonna give you your powers back. It's like, hey, we're gonna give you the ability to do this from this timeline. We're gonna give you the ability to do this from this time, because Lila's eyeball things that's never explained. So I think in some timeline there is a Lila out there who was near not a Sparrow, not an Umbrella Academy, but another character who this was their power. And this is what this Marigold did. It's pulling things in from every timeline.
Yeah, they truly don't have a good answer for this. The writers. It is
I tried.
No. We have better answers because we have an answer. I also had like a weird theory that it was also the reason their powers were so advanced, also because we don't know how much they took. Because it was one Marigold that went into their moms that gave them babies. They gave them these special gifts. But then also, it's mixed with sake. It's mixed with alcohol.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know to what detail that gives. But then also, keeping in mind that during the reset, Allison and Reginald had their own motives, had their own likings. So if they made a deal that was like, hey, these are the people that are coming out of the reset, this is how I want it to be. I don't want our powers there. They're like, okay, let's do it. So when they got the Marigolds with sake, I wonder if it just like retracted what the reset was for them. And there was like, well, here's your Ape Body back. I feel like there is an answer out there, because we all know that his Ape Body is not, it's not because of his gifts.
Yeah.
It was just there. So there's something there that made his Ape Body come back. Everybody came out of the reset fully healed except for Allison. So that's why I also think that Allison was the reason why when he got his powers back, he also got the Ape Body back.
Okay.
That is theories. That is my theory.
The Pandromeda asking, what happened to Sloane?
Great.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Great
this is a great question. I feel like it's one of the biggest complaints about this season is that, like, how do you have Luther fall in love and then, like, he's not even really, like, he has, like, one line where he's like, hey, man, you remember Sloane from last season?
Oh, yeah, he said Sloane would have loved this.
Sloane would have loved this. And then Diego's like, yeah. And then it's like, never talked about again. Yeah, I mean, I think, all of the Sparrows, because I think in that wish, like, reset that Allison made, it was that like they all get a second chance at certain things, and in this timeline, I'm assuming that like Reginald doesn't really get any of the Sparrows, because in season 3, the whole reason he adopted the Sparrows is because he didn't want to adopt
like the Umbrella Academy.
and he was like, let me adopt this like weird sentient farting cube thing in the air, and this lady who poops out ravens.
Hell yeah.
And so I think like Sloane probably still exists. I would assume she's out there and has no has no powers and doesn't. But yeah, I think if they had 10 episodes, there would have been an episode where Luther was like, I found her. She has no memory of me, and I didn't want to bring her into this crazy.
Or they just would have explained why she's not there. I'm literally like, ugh. My theory.
I think she's out there living her best Sloane life with her regular parents, never having any memory of this.
My theory is like the multiversal timeline that they have already destroyed and pieces are falling through. The multiversal timeline can somehow register their DNA when the machine was being reset. So they were like, when Allison was like, I want my family back together after this reset, that's why they kept Sparrow Ben, because Ben still has that DNA of the original Ben.
Yeah.
I think Sloane, and this is such a weird stretch, this is such a weird pull. They took all their Marigolds, and all of them came out but Sloane. But we did get an Abigail. And I was thinking that there was some way that her Marigolds are what revived Abigail in the reset.
Oh,
and it unfortunately sucks that they had to sacrifice Sloane to revive Abigail. But out of all of them, they can't take away Ben. They can't take away Ben. I feel bad too, because I love the Sloane character, but I did also, I wanted more from the 4th season on where she is, but I didn't mind her being the one that was gone.
Yeah, I was like, I
oh,
don't care about Sloane.
I'm here for the family, the core family.
In season 3, I was like, oh, good for Luther.
Luther, that's what I said.
Like, I didn't care about Sloane.
Maybe we're just bad people, because I also was like,
no, I think she got short shrift. Like,
she did.
Can you remember anything about Sloane? It's like, she could like levitate.
I remember she levitated like a toffee and donut to him because no one would let him eat.
Yeah, like, what else about Sloane? What do you people like about Sloane? Who cares if she's gone? She's doing something. She's working as a hostess at TGI Fridays.
Oh God, I hope she's not. she's not. But no, I felt that same way, and I was just like, it sucks to be like they got rid of her just for Luther's plot, but I was like, I think they kind of did. They were like, they got married.
The answer is they got rid of her because they couldn't afford the extra
That
cast.
That also too. Larry David's daughter was so much in that last season. I always forget she was.
Hey, shout out Cassie. We went to college together.
Is she the same age as us?
Yeah.
I was about to say, damn, and she got on Umbrella Academy. I forget her dad's Larry David. If my dad was Larry David, I'd also be on Umbrella Academy. I'll tell you that. Okay, before we keep going, we wanted to thank our sponsor today, A Better Paradise, Volume 1 and Aftermath. A Better Paradise is a podcast from the writers of the Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto series. What? It's a sci-fi thriller audio drama and the very first story in an expansive new universe from Absurd Ventures. What? I know I shouldn't be acting surprised while I'm reading the ad, but this sounds pretty good. Set in the near future, A Better Paradise tells the story of the ill-fated development of an ambitious but addictive digital game world project led by an inventor and psychologist, Dr. Mark Tyburn. As the advanced software they developed delivered unexpected and disturbing results, the team fell apart under strange circumstances, abandoning the project. The game world and the superintelligence within were discarded, left dormant, and undiscovered until now. Oh, this is insane. Somebody get this on the phone right now. Zach Huddleston, Z Hud, you know the guy. He calls the show a paranoid neo-noir set in a near future where a psycho AI is hunting down the people who created it. It's a little Alex Garland, a little Blade Runner, a little Mr. Robot, and a lot of fun. A Better Paradise is created and written by Dan Houser, lead writer of the Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption, and directed by his longtime creative partner, Laszlo. Did I say that right? Laszlo? Mm-hmm. Thank you. A Better Paradise is out now and available everywhere you get your podcast. Go listen today, and don't forget to follow A Better Paradise from your platform of choice to make sure you never miss an episode. And also, secondly, check out nerdride.shop. Who's wearing nerdride.shop? Me! Look at this! This is the Choose Your Fighter shirt. I love this shirt more than anything. It's Marvel mixed in with Street Fighter. It's a perfect shirt. It's also a crop top. Yeah, like me. Go check out nerdride.shop for the latest and greatest new Rockstars merch. You can go get the Agatha shirts. We're getting ready for September and all the scary stuff that comes with witches. All right, perfect. Evan, give me some more questions.
All
give
right.
us some more questions.
Ashley61202 in the Twitch chat having a lot of feelings about 5, saying, Season 1 5 would have never betrayed his brother and abandoned his family to fend for themselves. Complete character assassination. As someone who hasn't followed this show since Season 2, that is a phrase I've been seeing a lot in reaction to this finale.
Dang.
How did you guys feel about 5? How did you guys feel about the treatment of the characters this season?
You go first. You go first.
What I will say with that, because I have been seeing more about that than him with Lila. It's like 5 would never betray their family, and I agree with that to an extent. 5 also disappeared for a very long time when he was a kid, and then grew to be 58 years old. I think when it needs to be not inconvenience, but addressed, he's willing to not sacrifice, but not really obey what his family wants him to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that has happened again in Season 2. He's been when fighting even Viktor. They fought Allison. They're always like, what are we gonna do? We're just gonna ruin the world over and over again. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's surprising that he let love come over him so much. We saw how he felt about Dolores. Was it Dolores, the mannequin?
Yeah, Dolores. Yeah.
He loved that mannequin, and when that mannequin died, he kind of crumbled inside. I think love.
He returned her. She didn't die. He returned her
I thought
to
she
her.
died.
No, he returned her to her rightful department store spot.
That's even worse. No, I'm joking. But I think I'm not surprised.
Now, Dolores, go back to your department store.
I'm not surprised that they made him be like, oh, love does this. Because when he was trapped in that long time with Dolores, he fell in love with someone that loved him back, and now he fell in love with someone that has a partner.
Yeah. I chatted this to Jessica, and one of the things that I like about this season is the fact that by the end they give each character something that they needed, whether or not they realized it or not. So, for instance, Viktor gets closure with his dad, and finally gets his dad to say he gets to rescue his dad and prove to his dad that he could have been a superhero along with his siblings all along. Klaus gets to face death in a way that he hasn't before by being buried alive, and he decides he wants to live. So he gets that sort of motivation to go bride on the. And I think the thing that I agree that it sort of came out of nowhere, but I think one of the things that like Five needed was that when he was stuck in that apocalypse for so long, before he was recruited by the commission, he was alone, and that's what led him to Dolores. It was very much a Wilson, Wilson the volleyball relationship. He had no one else. He was in an apocalyptic timeline by himself with no one else. And now he gets to see what it's like to live in apocalyptic timelines with another person. And to me, it makes sense that he falls in love with her. And also, like, when he does fall in love with her, he has no idea if they're ever getting back. I think like, 7 years with a person, I don't think after year 3 you're gonna really be thinking, I can't do this to my brother. You're gonna be thinking, we're gonna die together. 100%. We're both aging again. We're going to die together. He finally got to experience like the end of the world 100%. With another person, and I think that was sort of what he needed. And that's why it was such a hard decision for him to like say to her, like, hey, I found a book to get us back.
Thank God he did immediately. I was like,
he waited a couple months.
A little bit. Okay, yes, it was a little months. But I thought he was never gonna tell. I was genuinely like, he's not gonna say it.
I was glad that he did. I genuinely think that he like, it didn't surprise me. And Jess is right that like in other instances he's like, so we're gonna have to kill Viktor.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's not above sort of sacrificing. I mean, this dude has lived a long life, and he sees everything from a different perspective of much higher stakes than all of his siblings do. And finally he gets to just sort of like live this quiet life with another woman at the end of the world. I actually liked it.
Yeah, I only adding to this, I agree with everything Gina says about Lila and him being like, this is all I have. We didn't know we were going back. Did I like them fall in love? Absolutely not. That's just what I'm saying. I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Maybe I needed to also be stuck there for 7 years. It was because I cannot get it out of my head that that's a boy body. And I will never get it out of I'll be like, that's a little boy body. And I could be stuck in a dimension with you for 12 years and I'd be like, I just can't physically be into you. I'm so sorry. You look like a child.
It's either her or another mannequin he finds again.
I would go find the mannequin. I would be like, you know what? I'm gonna go search for
Jessica, mannequin.
Give me a goddamn mannequin. One of the plus size ones from Target.
Obi-Wan Kenobi bringing up a good point. There wasn't enough time left in the season to get into the full implications of spending 7 years together.
Yes, it was so and they tried. I will give them that. They tried to give us that entire with the song montage. I was like, I'm feeling it, but it's not enough time.
I think like the when they got back, it was not enough time because basically they get back and Diego's like, hold up, are you in love with my brother? And she's like, sorry, we gotta go sacrifice ourselves now. And like they didn't get to be like, hey man, like you have no idea what we went through. I mean, I think if they had a bigger budget, we would have seen more of those apocalyptic timelines.
That's what. Yep.
But like they are facing death every single day until they find that strawberry farm or wherever they ended up. And I think like if we had seen a little bit of it and then gotten back and she had to actually make a decision before they sacrificed herself, that might have had a little bit more of like an implication. But also when we see her and it's been 9 years of her living this life, she's been a mom. It's the exact opposite of what she was used to, which was chaos. And now she's like getting back to that chaos, so it makes sense that she's getting a little D in.
She's getting a little D in. You said something that made me go, yeah, 100%, and I can't remember what it is. It'll come to me though. What were you gonna say, Evan?
H. Brasso 13 saying Lila's parents were also killed by Five. How do y'all feel about them being back?
Oh, wait, did they? Oh, wait. I just realized that they fall in love, and he's like, I killed your parents.
Yeah. I mean, he did it on the orders of the commission.
True.
On the orders of her adoptive mom from
true. So it's not really.
And she knows how the commission works. Like she has killed other people before.
That's true.
Like he was living the life of an assassin, and like no harm done. They're back. They're carrying piñatas and birthday cakes,
that was. I said it to Gina before we started recording. My favorite character for this season is Lila. I think I would have loved to see more of because that turmoil that poor woman was going through the entire show was so visceral. I was just like, damn, yeah, you were like fighting and mimicking people's powers for so long.
Yeah, she was
and then
the
now
most
you're a mom.
powerful of
Now
them.
you're a mom.
Yeah.
And here's your parents that aren't dead.
Yeah, you got 3 kids all of a sudden, a husband who's driving for UPS and can't hit a mailbox slot.
Yeah, a punk ass. But what I make sense. I understand. Like, oh, in the reset, her parents never died because she never had the powers, so she never.
Well,
they just,
also 5 never created a commission.
Exactly.
So they were never assassinated.
They were never killed.
Yeah.
So they were never killed. So it makes sense why the parents are there. But I also wanted that same treatment to everybody else, and we didn't really, not like parent-wise, but I'm like, we still saw all that stuff with Klaus and his mom in the afterlife.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so wait, is there is Ben still in Korea?
Yeah.
Is someone so there?
It does feel like we need 4 more seasons to just get over this season, because that would be the logical thing that Klaus would do, right? Like, he'd be like, oh wait, in this timeline, my weird Amish mom is alive.
Let me go
to
see what
Amish
she's doing.
Town.
Let me go to Amish Town.
Just watch him churn some butter and say hi to mom.
I don't. Did we ever learn about like Allison's parent? We never really learned about Luther's either.
No. I mean, we don't even know where Ray is. We don't know why he dumped her.
Okay.
He probably dumped her because he was like, I'm from the 1960s and I'm freaked out.
What the fuck?
Why did you bring me here? I don't know what a computer is.
The fact that it was a one sentence from Viktor, or like a look and a one sentence that Ray's not there.
I truly think that they were like, you got to cut out all guest cast.
Yep.
Because there's no reason for him not to be there, but Netflix was like, do we really need him here if he's just going to be in a half an episode? Because that's going to cost us a lot of money.
Seeing and telling for this show, I understand, because there's so many plot lines to follow. But I still was like, you need to show me at least a telephone call.
Yeah.
Them constantly trying to work it out.
What a terrible deal Allison struck. She should have said, like, hey, in the reset, I want my daughter and my husband back, but I want my daughter not to be a little brat, and I want my husband to actually stay with me.
My husband to stay with me. I was like, and I'm so sorry. I know. I love Allison, but I recognize as a fan how bad she is and what she's done horribly. I recognize that. As a black girl, I don't really get a lot of choices in the fucking show. So, but I was like, girl, you are bad every season. And this didn't help. I was like, you did all this, reset everybody, and you still didn't get your man.
Yeah. I bet they intended to have him in there.
I agree.
But then Netflix was like, I need you to shave another $100 million off this budget. And they're like, bye Sloane, bye Ray.
And then add in the 3 weird Swedish men at the end and a bunch of other people.
Speaking of the reset, Captain Cannabis asking, why did Klaus immediately have to go back to drugs after he got his powers? Wasn't he technically clean?
That's a great question. We were talking about this right before. I know that like it's a slippery slope with addiction. I think him immediately being like, well, I'm addicted to everything again immediately is a little hard to buy.
It was okay. So the steps, right? He got shot in the chest. They pulled the marigold down his chest hole without his consent. He comes to, he's pissed at Allison for doing that.
Yeah.
Allison's like, I had to save you. I like that Allison never in that sentence said, they made me.
Yeah,
I was the one that questioned
why are you blaming her just because she holds the marigold jar? They were all in that car.
They were all in that car. Blame all of us. See, you're yelling at me, and then he loses that connection and immediately goes stealing in her house.
Yeah.
That jump, again, 10 episodes would have probably been stretched.
Yeah.
But I'm also not surprised that they probably don't know how to write a storyline like that. They haven't really been dealing with Klaus's addiction in a way that he's relapsing, he's sober.
Yeah.
Because even in the first episode, he got out and then he OD'd.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know if they really know how to. To be fair, the only time I saw it handled like kind of well was Euphoria, because I was like, oh, this full episode is this poor person relapsing.
I mean, this is also like a different thing too, because he not only does he see dead people, he can't die. So there is like an element of like, he's taking drugs to like block out the dead people voices. 100%. So it's not a straight up addiction storyline. So in this case, he maybe like started taking the drugs again because he didn't want the dead people to come back. He wanted to block them out, because we saw that that's what happens when he's sober. That's when like dead people are like, Klaus, what's going on? Help me over here, I'm a ghost. So he could have been like, well, I got to go do a bunch of drugs. Otherwise, every dead person in a 10-mile radius is going to be on me, and I can't deal with that right now.
I think there's also a common theme with a lot of these shows that when the person can't feel anything, they go to a route of just harming themselves.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely what Klaus is doing. He got shot in the head and was like, oh God, I can always survive and I don't want to. So he's just spiraling.
Yeah, it's a spiral.
This question, I'm not sure I understand, so I'll ask it. It's Pork Roll asking, did you break down all the reverse announcements?
Oh yeah, you know what? So what he's asking is, did we ask our editors, because Jessica did wonder.
I asked you if we could clip it, reverse it.
Flip it and reverse it.
Flip it and reverse it. I will say the way that we edit things over here, it does take some time, and we wrote these scripts and then we shot it, and then
check
we
back
were
with
doing
us in 9 years.
Yeah, when I do the rest of the rest of the episodes, we'll reverse it.
Yeah,
but I did put it in the notes that we wanted to.
That was Jessica's first thought. She said, like, can we reverse this and figure out what they're saying? But to answer your question, no, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
We wanted to.
To be fair, also you guys.
Someone will eventually.
Someone will, but also you guys didn't ask for the reverse. You guys asked why the season was made. Y'all were coming at me. You guys were coming at me sideways. Which, respectfully, you were like, Jessica, why'd you like this season? And I said, I only watched the first 2 episodes so far.
On the topic of the breakdowns, H Pass the 13 with a question from earlier. What was your favorite Easter egg to find, or something you noticed?
That's a great question.
I was obsessed with all the memorabilia that the jeans always had.
Yes.
I love those. I love those photos. Because I was like the dapper dandy in a hat. What is this? And you were like, season 2. This is this.
The picture. Yeah, I think all of the things from other timelines that they have coming through. You know, the movie with like Allison on the title, starting with Tom Holland. Like I got to kick everything that's in that suitcase, and then everything that Gene and Jean show on the screen.
Yeah.
I thought those are some real good Easter eggs.
They were good with those Easter eggs. Even the Easter eggs of the Eiffel Tower, being like, wait. And it was so fun because the Eiffel Tower from the comics, that's when they were babies, or like children. And now in that photo, they are completely dressed up, and you see they're in their like outfits, like Allison's in their outfit, and I was like, oh, what would have happened if the Umbrella Academy were adults still being Umbrella Academy?
Yeah. I think all those alt timeline things were great.
So easy to throw in there too.
Yeah.
Here's a theory from Eliza JV. I honestly thought Reginald was the same Reginald from season 3 and was just pretending.
Was just lying. It was the 60s Reginald that was like, damn it. I hate the Sparrow Academy. Or I hate the Umbrella Academy. That is very fun. I like how they approached Reginald this season, where he was constantly like, I'm not the Reginald that kept you kids in a basement. Like, please stop harassing me. Also, how are you going to give us, sorry, this is just a rant. How are you going to show us that he owns everything in the world, and then when we watch the actual show, he owns maybe 2 things. He owns the security
he has an entire town full of paid assassin actors.
2 things. The town and the McDonald's, the restaurant. I was like, wait, didn't you own every? Because remember that season 3 finale.
Listen, at the end of season 3, they had really grand ambitions.
Everything. They had everything. They had Ben on the train.
Listen, I want to live in this Hargreaves Christmas town, because you know those people are being paid well. They're in this town, and like all they have to do is like see 1 day's worth of action. But they've been living there for 9 years, just pretending to own an antique shop.
I hate them. I was like, Reginald, I thought you owned everything. And then, also my favorite dumbest reveal on the show was when he was like, well, it looks like you guys need a machine that can go deep in your brain. And I weirdly have it in my attic. He said I must have it somewhere in this house.
He's like, now where did I leave that? Oh, God, of course, it's right here.
He said, and now everybody's strapping.
The rebraininator.
The lights have changed from blue to red as soon as I turn it on. So everybody get prepared.
Netflix is like, do you need to show this machine, or can it just be like, can we just see lights flashing on their faces from the side?
Do you think that Netflix got those scripts and highlighted every part that they questioned whether you could do?
Absolutely. I think that those scripts look nothing like what Netflix got, and then Netflix was like, yeah, it's good.
I would love to.
We're gonna get rid of this. Don't need Sloane.
Don't need Sloane. The guy that worked on the show. Tell me if you can find the original scripts.
You're trying to get this poor guy blacklisted from.
No. I'll give him my paychecks. I just need to know what the original script
He left a note earlier. It was something along the lines of, I can't say too much because I've worked for NBC for 11 years, but all I'll say is hashtag Gina was right.
It's Netflix's fault. It always is. When in doubt, Netflix did it.
Yeah.
Just think about that. I knew that. Okay, we shouldn't lay on that too hard. No one come for this man.
Yeah. Frankie the movie guy on Twitch asking, is that cube boy just a cube now?
Was he ever a boy?
Question. His mom just shoots out a Rubik's Cube from her vagina?
Oh. I just assumed, this is so funny. Maybe I should go back and watch it. I just assumed he was like a test tube baby. And he went into,
what?
you think the mom gave birth to a Rubik's Cube?
I think she gave birth to, Listen, like Faye comes out with like ravens in her body.
But that's
Dan
still a
comes out with
baby.
a portal to a different dimension in his tummy. I think she pooted out a Rubik's Cube. Baby.
And she's like, oh my God. It's twisting.
Is that what babies are supposed to look like?
She hands it to the Olympic pommel horse guy. Hey, solve this cube for me.
I'm looking it up because I'm like, wait a minute. Did he come?
I think he came out.
I agree with you. I do not agree with you. Oh, so I forgot their name is Christopher. That was their name.
Christopher,
Their name is
yeah. Christopher
That's
the
so
Cube.
funny. And like
I think Reginald showed up at her house and he was like, "Can I buy that Rubik's Cube baby from you?" And the mom was like, "Yes, please."
Please take this thing away from me. It's so funny, the biographies for all of them, because it's all the same, is they were born on October 1st, 1989. One of 16 children were like born. Like they all get the same intro, but I'm like, I know Christopher came out of something else, and I need to see it. An equation?
That's a great question though. If no one has their powers anymore, I mean, if no one has their powers anymore, he's got to just be a regular baby, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because that cubism is directly related to his.
I will say that is
powers.
true. That is true. And also, yeah, their bodies can be altered from their powers, from their gifts. So if his is just altered to the degree that he is literally a cube, yeah.
Okay, wrapping up here. The Pandromeda asking why didn't Five suffer from Paradox Psychosis when he was in the subway with the other five?
Oh wait, do you mean the like deli? That they're like the
Someone did ask.
Assume that they're talking about like that like deli where like there's like hundreds of fives
Yes.
from all different timelines, and my answer to that is I think Netflix didn't want 100 farting. No, it's actually different than that. But this like basically exists. This way station exists outside of time.
Yep.
So Paradox Psychosis is when two of them get too close to each other in the same timeline, but because this is not in time, there would be no Paradox Psychosis. I hope that makes sense to everyone.
I kept comparing. I was like, the Hotel Oblivion felt more like the Citadel at the End of Time in Loki, but the subway felt like the TVA / the Loom. I was like, it's outside, nothing
outside
gets really
time
fucked
and
up
space.
there.
So they wouldn't be sick because Paradox Psychosis is because two of them should not exist in close proximity in one timeline, but this is not a timeline.
Yeah.
It's like a void basically. So that's why that answers your question.
And that kind of follows up with another question that people kept asking. That was like, how was Lila and Allison's family able to survive into the next timeline without them? And I was like, I think genuinely it's because they existed inside that subway and were shot through.
She shoved them to the side. Yeah. Also, I think that like in that last scene, they really just wanted to pay fan service and be like, hey, remember all these people? Now they're happy because of this sacrifice. But yeah, I think they did try to solve it by being like, if they're on the subway in the void, basically, then they'll still exist.
Yeah. I think the question that should come out of that is like, oh, when they got out that subway, how did they know how they all knew each other?
Yeah.
That's the weird thing.
You guys remember how I was born?
Like, they would be looking at the babies being like, who are you? And then looking at Claire being like, what's this? What's going on over there?
I guess you're both our kids?
I think, I guess, and that's also like, how do people act when they like are stranded like this? It's like, I guess since we're together, we gotta stick together. We're the only people that know. And then they got out. They could have explored. I wanted them to explore that subway so bad. I wanted to know who built it, where it started. Does it still exist now that there's a sacred timeline? I was like, it looks like Fives figured out how to kind of maneuver it, but they just kind of sat there. And
I think there's no reason for it to exist.
Yeah,
now.
right? Exactly.
I think once one timeline was created outside of the sacred, let's call it the sacred timeline.
That's what I keep calling it.
Then boom, Subway is now in existence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Tori on YouTube saying, I wanted to see more of the timelines that they were jumping through. It was a whole lot of telling instead of showing, crying.
I mean, some of those timelines looked cool as hell, though.
I liked watching them just eat the subway rats when they kept going out when they were scared. Yeah, again, it could have been a money thing because I was like, they were really quick to show us where Five was in that one timeline that we already saw before.
Yeah.
But I was like, it could have been probably a money thing. But
I think it was a money thing.
If it was one, and that's the thing, if they had more episodes, that could have been just one full episode. That could have been one full episode.
I think that if we had seen it, we might have bought the romance a little bit more.
I agree with that. I think I would have. I still would have been like, not for me, but I would have understood it. I would have understood it.
Little boy body.
Little boy body. Just a boy body. It's a boy body. It's a child body.
H-Wrestle13 saying, I really thought Victor was going to sacrifice himself so he could take the Marigold away, coming from a huge Victor fan.
I'm standing up right now.
Yeah.
Because a piece of me... fix the camera. I'm serious about this. I agree with you. So that was a nice slide. I don't think they should have done this at all, what I'm about to say. But as soon as it happened, I said, why didn't Viktor just take everybody's marigolds and sacrifice themselves?
I think I did have that thought for a moment, but I think the answer is that it took a lot for Viktor to try and pull it out of Ben. And I think to do it from everybody, I think is beyond Viktor's capability.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think if he had enough time, if there wasn't a giant Scrooge monster.
But it seems like he could have at least saved one person. But I was also like, I like them not dying, being expunged from existence. I actually like that ending.
But I've also seen some people online thinking that the flowers mean that, like, because obviously the flowers mean they still exist, just not as people. Yeah. They're like, it's like a reminder of them. And some people I saw online were like, does this mean that they could come back?
If someone eats the marigolds, they just reincarnate?
Oh, I'm pooping out 7 people.
Oh my God.
At least one of them's not accused.
Yeah, oh, thank God one's not a raven. Edgar Allan Poe ass. I think the flowers were there to be like, oh, this is a sweet gesture. They exist now, reincarnated as the flowers.
Yeah.
But because I was also like, there's a clear shot of the sake that Klaus had thrown over their shoulder. I think I even mentioned this in the script. Yeah. I said, does that mean that a plant just got the marigolds? Does that mean a waiter got
a waiter cross by and get it. And if I were that waiter, I would be like, excuse me, sir, what is wrong with you? Why did you just throw that at me?
This glowing thing is now making my neck itch. Is this okay? But I think it was just to be like, oh, look at how they go. Look at how it ends. Yeah. They're flowers now. But again,
I liked this. I think I like the fact that they finally we've seen them do hero, for lack of a better term, hero crap throughout the whole, but this was the first really heroic thing that they did.
And it was like, we fixed it by killing or just dying or not existing.
Yeah.
Eliza JV asking, how would Gina write this season and the show? We'll zoom out a little bit. What's like one thing you guys would change about this ending, if you could? Is it just more time?
The ending or the whole season?
The ending.
Okay. The ending. Honestly, like, I do like that they sacrificed each other. Mm-hmm. They sacrificed themselves. The one thing that I would have loved to have seen was a longer moment between all the siblings, because we get that moment where they're basically like, I'm glad that if we're going out together, and it's like a sweet moment. And they're not going to resolve, like, this is not a family that resolves issues. Mm-hmm. It's a family that, like, lives in their issues. But I think, like I said before, just seeing them apart for so long and then only coming back in that last episode. I think we had seen them come back in the penultimate episode, and then the last episode, they sort of spent that episode together as a family instead of so broken off from one another. I think that moment would have hit harder if it was sort of like they're finally like okay as a family, and now this is when they're going out.
I agree. I think if we made that get some length, I would have liked it more. But I still genuinely like them having to just not exist. I feel like that probably was like the first thing they thought of how to end the show, and then they worked back down. Yeah. They were like, oh, we know that they're gonna take themselves out of every part of existence.
Yeah. You know what? I want to change my answer about the Easter eggs, though. I think my favorite thing was seeing everyone back in the end and all the Easter eggs in that scene.
That one was cute.
Because there are a ton of Easter eggs in that scene. I think the showrunner even was like, check out all these Easter eggs in this final scene where you see the triplets are still alive, and you see the handler, and she's
like a jogger. She's a jogger.
Yeah, she's like a fancy jogger, and you see like Hazel with his donut lady love.
Yeah,
it's very sweet. I liked seeing all of them.
Yeah.
Joyce Ladd and Soviet Falco asking a question that's coming up a little bit more and more often these days on Breakroom streams.
Oh.
How many tiny kisses should have been in this episode?
Oh, tiny kisses! Oh my gosh! I think everyone should have given each other 7 tiny little kisses because there's 7 siblings.
I will disappear for like 2 days. I will disappear. I mean, I was gone for like 8 months. I'll give you that. And I didn't know what Fleshy was when I got back. But I've been gone from the break room since the finale of House of the Dragon.
Jessica, I want to see 7 tiny kisses from that. I want to see them go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You gotta make it to 7.
6, 7.
I want to see 7 Rubik's Cubes flying out of moms.
But then the Rubik's Cubes each give their mom tiny little kisses.
I go, get away from me! you box is...
No, Jessica, give me tiny kisses.
Tiny kiss. There was a lot of tiny kisses.
A lot of tiny kisses.
So many tiny kisses in the episode. Honestly, some people say too many kisses.
Tiny baby boy body kisses.
Oh,
Keep
God.
that away from me. That album I will never listen to in my life. That's a Fall Out Boy sound.
Or I was the guy that wrote the comics. Not 30 Seconds to
Gerard,
Mars.
yeah, that's
Gerard
a,
Way.
yeah. You said 30 Seconds to Mars, Jared Leto?
Not 30 Seconds to
No,
Mars.
it's
I said the other one.
white,
My
the
Chemical
parade.
Romance. My Chemical Romance.
My Chemical
My
Romance.
Chemical Romance.
I only know My Black Parade. I'm so sorry. My emo knowledge when I was in middle school only went as deep as Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco. And Boys Like Girls,
Classic.
if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
They each need their own comic line.
Well, speaking of Fleshy, we'll end it on the question. Sarah Hatch-Jordan asking, how fleshy was this season?
Fleshy as hell, dude. The point that was really fleshy for me and my mom's favorite scene, is Luther stripping in that strip club. And then Luther with the robe next to Victor with full-on G-string.
Full-on donger.
Victor says, maybe go put on some clothes. That was the thing, that's what I liked about it. It had funny moments. Luther's jokes were, they hit, that DIY part was very funny to me. The fact that he only cared about those, what were they called? The conches or the sconches?
Yeah, sconces.
Sconces.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there were a lot of great funny moments. You have 3 great comedians added to this season, which is probably why they don't have Sloane. They were like, listen, if it was your dad, we would put him in.
Larry show up for a season.
Right. What if instead of casting one of them, they were like, you think Larry David will do this role where he's pretending to be Jennifer's dad?
Or what if he's the new Reginald Hargraves in this world? Is just Larry David?
But this whole scene where Gene and Gene are dancing to Cher.
Yes.
And in like a perfectly, oh God, I was like, these two are eating this scene up, and I love it.
They were
love
having.
it.
We didn't even talk about Gene and Gene. Just really quick.
Love
They
them.
were having the best time of their lives playing these
they
characters.
really were.
Megan Mullally. There was one scene where Megan Mullally like hushed him for a minute and grabbed his mouth and lips, and then was like,
I love it.
"Ew." And I was like, she's having so much fun with his accent. Every part of it.
Yeah. They're the best.
Damn.
Truly the best.
Damn. Well, also we got it here first that it was because of Netflix. I just want to make sure we all are aware of that. It was Netflix's fault.
Yes. Don't tweet at the writers. It's not their fault.
I would never blame. I was like, I don't think it's. I feel bad that the writers literally got only 5 episodes to really work with. I was like, there's something behind the scenes we don't know about that's happening, and I need to know. I need to get into it. Okay, so that's it though. That is it for us today. Answering your guys' questions on Umbrella Academy season 4, talking about how we feel about it, but also just being like, you guys, come on. There's a brighter tomorrow.
Yeah. Stop dive bombing Rotten Tomatoes.
Come on, you guys. Come on. There's actual movies that need that. Make sure to subscribe to the Breakroom channel on YouTube and give us a follow on Twitch, where we do these videos live all the time for you guys. Follow me at Lulu_Clemons. Gina, where can they follow you?
You can follow me at Gina Ippi on the 900 social media sites I'm currently on.
Yeah, there's not a lot of Gina Ippolitos. You're so lucky. That's a very rare name. Follow Breakroom NR on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads. See you guys later.
Bye.